So you know you need someone to help you figure out your remodel. It's not going to go well if you just call a contractor and say, let's do the kitchen. But whose help are you looking for exactly? Do you need a kitchen designer, a draftsman, an engineer, an architect, a house inspector, an interior designer, a design build team? Who's the first call? You might actually tap a number of people from that list. Who you need depends on you and your project. Today, I'm talking with fellow MCM specialist Elin Walters of Exactly Design about who exactly you might like to work with. The most important thing is to get that help to find those people early in your process. Because Elin and I have both gotten calls from people who are already deep into their remodel process, already working with a contractor with lots of choices locked in when they suddenly realize they need some mid-century expert design help. And the thing is, by that point, they've probably blown past so many milestones where they should have been thinking about design before doing. Sometimes we can jump in and salvage the situation. Sometimes we can provide point-by-point specific advice about how to solve the problems that have been created and get a project back on track without too much extra expense or too much of a loss of great mid-century features. But the truth is, you're always better off if you build your remodel planning team completely out from the start. Listen, you know you're right to love your home's mid-century charm, and that's why you're listening to this podcast. Your passion for design, for mid-century history, can take you pretty far, especially if you're willing to do research and help yourself out by gathering a team of people around you who also care about and are expert on your home. That's exactly how Elin got started. She'll share a little of her mid-century origin story today, so stay tuned. Hey there, welcome back to Mid-Mod Remodel. This is the show about updating MCM homes, helping you match a mid-century home to your modern life. I'm your host, Della Hansman, architect and mid-century ranch enthusiast. You're listening to episode 1813. It's October already. What? I don't actually understand what happened to the summer, but here we are. And a new month means a new architect office hours call. I am always excited about those. For all my Ready to Remodel members listening in, submit your questions this weekend for Monday's call. It'll be at 6 p.m. Central, just like always. And if you can't make it live, send a more detailed question because I won't be able to ask you for follow-up information, and I'll get you your answer that you can watch on the replay recording on your own time. If you are not a Ready to Remodel student yet, now is a great time to join us. Elin and I are going to talk today about how important it is to have a group of people around you who get your mid-mod desire. Another way to describe that is a mid-mod remod squad. And that's just what you get inside of Ready to Remodel. As soon as you enroll, you get access to all our evergreen resources, master planning lessons, guides and workbooks, plus workshops on kitchens, baths, additions, and more, design guides, and resources for every mid-century remodel situation. And you'll get your invitation to ask a question and show up for this month's and every month's Architect Office Hours call. Last time, we welcomed a bunch of new members on the call, and it was really fun to get their intros to their homes and see what cool new features make them unique, but also what common challenges they share with so many other home remodelers, me included. If you want to know more, head to midmod-midwest.com/masterclass and sign right up, or find a link and anything else you might want to know in the show notes at midmod-midwest.com/1813. Now here's my chat with Elin. Too many people think when they want to make a change to their house, they open the phone book and call a contractor. But there are some steps you need to do first, some other people to talk to before you get to that stage, especially if you live in a mid-century home. Who are the people to assemble for your home update team in a mid-century house? And maybe what order you want to start those people, or at least know those people before you get into making actual changes to the house. I know you work with this all the time.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I do that all the time. I'm an interior designer, but I work very closely with builders, contractors, architects, the full team. And I get people who call like at all stages of the game, right? Like we're already working with a contractor but we're really realizing we need some selection help. And I sort of grit my teeth a little bit like, I wish you would have called me before. Before you started to do the renovation, and now you're in it and you're realizing that you need to make all these selections right now versus had you called me before it happened. We talked about different builders. We talked about different architects. I think, at least from my perspective, as a designer, I feel like kind of the architecture and the interior design part should come first, right? Because it's kind of the visual, right? It's It's thinking of all the ideas. It's thinking about what it would look like in the end. And then you get to the contractor, because the contractor does the work, but they
Right.
don't have the vision necessarily. And
Yeah,
go ahead.
absolutely. And same way, I'm more in the middle of the process. If we're thinking of sort of contractor through to interior designer, architect falls between them. But I think that I sometimes have clients come to me looking for a master plan who already have a relationship with a contractor. That can work well, particularly if it's
Right.
true.
As
In
do
one
I.
case
Right.
recently, a couple with a gorgeous architect designed house in Indiana, and they've already done a couple of repair and replacement projects on it, and now they need to tackle the owner suite and the kitchen. So, but they know that their contractor can replicate what is in their house, a major wall system that curves. And so they've got craft
Right.
on hand, and I love it.
Right.
In
Amazing. Yeah,
general, I love for my clients to go to contractors with design drawings and
exactly.
that relationship and check that they are signing on for this and they can get on board with it, even if they might not be at the moment personal fans of mid-century. They can
Yeah.
see and they can
Yeah.
relate and they
It's
can,
having the willingness,
yeah,
right? To maybe do it a little differently than they have. We're
yeah,
not specifying white subway tiles from Lowe's necessarily.
yeah,
It's like a
exactly.
dirty
Invented
word. Like I
never.
just said a dirty word.
Yeah.
Um, but and maybe that's what contractors are used to. Like they want to be able to get the product in town very quickly.
Yeah.
And you or I might want a very special custom made tile from Fire Clay Tile in California, and we're going to have to wait 12 weeks to get it.
Yeah.
This is when I try to tell people to slow down, right? Get your people, get
Mhm.
your vision, and let's do the process slowly and correctly. It doesn't have to take forever, but correctly is going to help
Yeah.
you make the right selections.
And maybe pre-order those specialty products that have a longer lead time before
Right,
you
right,
reach out.
right, 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 right.
But yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I've had some interesting experiences with people who want to work with a design build firm or who come to me because they've contacted
Mm-hmm.
design build firms. And that's actually not a bad scenario sometimes, but in general, I
It
think,
makes sense, right? It makes sense to have that kind of all in-house. Um,
but that
Go
firm
ahead.
needs to have an understanding of mid-century. And if they don't, for a
Exactly.
mid-century house, you still need to start with someone like
Exactly.
you and or someone like me to get the
Right, right.
designer of whatever, and that designer might be an architect, they might be an interior designer, or they might just be someone who's worked there for a really long time and has some creative ideas, and that's all good.
Yep.
But if they don't have a previous understanding of mid-century, that's not going to work. And also it's important for the homeowner to know the distinction between what an interior designer does, what an architect does, and what a design builder does. And there are other they're kitchen and bath specialists, may or may not have formal training in either your field or mine. But they might still have something to bring.
Yeah. So in my own town, I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and there's several very well qualified design build firms. I wouldn't say that any of them understand the mid-century aesthetic. And so I have found it as an interior designer that I've had to build my team without it being official. Right. Like I get people who will call because they live in a mid-century home. They're also interviewing these other design build firms. And I have to like take it upon myself to say, they might be great, but I also know an architect who understands mid-century. I know a builder I've worked with forever who understands mid-century now.
Mm-hmm.
We're not an official team, but we are, right?
Yeah.
So I think we'll be better suited than the design build who does everything, who doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily understand the specificity of this era, right?
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
think even in their training, the designer in-house there might be an architect, they might be
Mhm.
an interiors person, they might have a training from a kitchen bathroom design
Right.
shop, but that doesn't necessarily give you everything you could be getting if you assemble the right group of people who can
Right. I mean,
bring
it's a
different
niche, right?
expertise.
Like we're in a very specific aesthetic. And to
Yes.
find your people who are really dialed in that way, I think is really important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I think that the bottom line really is that just to encourage anybody who's thinking about making changes in their house to engage with design first and then look at who's going to make that
Right.
design come to
Right.
reality.
Right.
And ideally, that gives you, when you go to form a relationship with a contractor and you more personally get to know, you have people on hand that you can do a direct handoff with. For me, much more often, because I'm working all over the place with people, I don't.
Yeah.
But my
Yeah.
goal is to give people a package of information that's going to give them really clear communication.
Right. In my situation, I work with people all over the country as well. And I say up front, like I'm not going to be able to tell you which contractor to get because I don't live in your town,
Mhm.
but finding contractors is not hard. And then I can communicate with the contractor and we can do Zoom, we can do whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
not hard to communicate. But that communication is really important. So
Yeah.
you can create your team even virtually.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
And some of the best relationships I've actually had in getting a project done have been handing off to what is ostensibly a design build firm with no
Yeah.
mid-century. And
Yeah.
then they have the craft and they have the organization and they can, in another
Right.
team, it's the best
Right.
scenario for me to see the
Have you
project.
found that they're willing to do that because they do have a designer on staff,
In gen- I can't actually think of a really bad scenario, and I can think of a
Okay.
couple of really positive scenarios where
Yeah,
actually,
great.
in one place, a small town, uh, rural Indiana, different Indiana project. I don't know why I'm constantly name checking Indiana right now, but
Interesting.
um, they had a lovely history of like doing craftsman and Victorian homes. The folks they had on staff were really detail oriented. They'd never touched a mid-century house before, but they
Okay.
put together stunning built-ins, grain matched flat cabinets that made my head
Amazing.
fast.
Yeah.
They were really invested in testing stain colors and making samples, and we did a screen wall custom surrounding the stair that was beautiful, and they did all these different mock-ups. And they really just took the drawings we'd done and ran with them. And also we did a lot of back and forth communication of, we tried these three
Right.
mock-ups. Which
Yeah.
one is it? The homeowner was a little antsy and the contractors were like, we're trying three things. Are these mid-century? And I would say like a little more
Yeah.
like,
Oh, that's hilarious. Are these messaging?
it was so dear. But I think all three of us, me as the designer, the homeowner, and the builder team, we're just really happy with that relationship.
Yeah.
And then
That's
right
great.
now, my little sister is remodeling her kitchen and bath with the local Madison sort of big box design build firm.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to stay hands off, but she got a design from me to start with. And she also
Yeah.
just sort of like has somewhat of downloaded my obsessiveness with mid-century design. And
Uh-huh.
so she's going to their interiors person and saying, they came to her with a very standard
Of course.
HGTV option. And she was like, what about flat counter cabinets? What if we did this dark stain? What if we did it this way? What if we made this a little more asymmetrical? And so she sort of
Right.
like requested them into a very
Mhm.
mid-century design.
Mhm.
And they've now coordinated it beautifully. So again,
Oh,
I
good to
think
hear.
starting with
Yeah.
that strong vision and then
Right.
taking it to someone that has a comprehensive
Right.
management skill is not a bad way if you don't
No.
have somebody in your town who can
As
give.
long as they're willing, right? Like, and they're craft and they're good at what they do. They
Yeah,
can do any aesthetic. Yeah.
exactly.
It's the communication so much of
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Yeah, just being able, because as a homeowner, you may not have the terminology or the visuals to
Yeah.
share what you're hoping for. You might know
Yeah.
what you want, but not be able to communicate it, and the contractor is not
Exactly.
going to guess.
Right.
So
That's what a rendering is for. Yeah.
exactly.
Let me just
Exactly.
spell it out for you very clearly. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, start from design and then find your
Yep.
builder. Do
I
not
agree.
do
100%.
not pick up the phone book and call AZ contractor in order
Right.
to kick off your remodel.
How did I get into this in a very circumvent kind of way? Um, you want me to just start talking?
Yeah. So
Okay. Yeah.
now you run a design business focused on
Now I run a
mid-century.
design business. Yeah. So I'm like the classic case of my parents were very creative. They were American folk art antique dealers my entire life. So
Okay.
I was traipsed around to these kind of high profile antiques shows in New York and elsewhere. And every antique store and every family vacation was going to antique stores and malls. And right, like I just was like a sponge of design and antiques and vintage and all of that. And then my parents divorced, and my dad bought this amazing kind of funky, kind of like Beetlejuice meets like Atomic Ranch, and it had all these really great elements. And he, although I grew up with American folk art in my house, he sort of diverged and started. It was all mid-century, and he had, we had this like Wurlitzer um, jukebox in the house. So my dad is now introducing me to mid-century and 1950s, and this was kind of when I was a teenager. So I go off to college and I decide I'm going to study psychology. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, wow, maybe I should go to art school, but I'm not an artist. I'm not an
Mhm.
artist. Like I don't paint, I don't sculpt. I appreciate all of it, but I didn't feel like that was my thing. So I went through college and, graduated. I got a master's in education and did all these various things, moved to Australia for a while. Um, all these things, right? Had a career in international education. And then I hit my 40s and moved into a house built in 1958. It's a modest mid-century house. It's not mid-century modern. It doesn't have great, roof lines, but it's got great bones, and we built an addition and made it more modern. So in the process of doing this house and realizing that I lived in a 1950s house and I needed to, nod to that era,
Mhm.
it all sort of started coming together. Like, oh, wait, I grew up in this house with my dad and he had all these great furniture, and now I have an opportunity to do the same. And so that's where it was sort of born. It was born out of owning the house. And then I realized I sent a couple photos to Atomic Ranch and I was like, I don't know if you ever like take or do any articles on like normal people. And they
Mhm.
saw the work and they're like, what? What? We want to do a full spread. And so it was thanks to Atomic Ranch. I'm like, wait a minute,
Oh, wow.
I think I could do this. So I sort of just jumped in and I was like, I feel like I could do this. So I started my own business about 7 years ago, and it's been crazy since then. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And
So you,
it's sort of like realizing that I thought my parents had sort of nailed the art world, and how
Mhm.
could I ever do what they do? And then what you realize is that you lived and breathed that as a child. And it was like, you have this natural ability that maybe you should use, right? So I sort of came to my like aha in life of, oh, I've been trying to go down the wrong path in a career my whole life, and it's been right here the whole time. So that's how I am. That's how I'm here doing
That's
what I'm doing.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, the house really called it out of you and
Yeah.
brought it back to that earlier connection of
Yeah. And
thinking.
then sort of gave me the confidence to do what I always loved and should have done, which was something artistic, and never thought that that was my thing, and
I
discovered that was.
wonder, I don't feel like I understood when I was young, when I was a kid, when I was going to college. I don't feel like I
Right.
understood what you could do with a design degree.
Right.
I didn't know anyone in design. I didn't know any architects.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot when I finally got to graduate school in
Mhm.
architecture, a lot of my classmates had family or friends who were architects around them when they were growing
Right.
up. So they knew that there was a pathway. They knew that was a thing that they could do. But
Right.
the
Right.
skill, the drive, the sort of delight in the details of design is something
Uh-huh.
that is in a lot of people, but is
Yeah.
not in a lot of other people.
I
So
know. I
when
mean,
you
I even
have it,
find, and I know you do too, that I'll come across interior designers who have gone through years and years and years of schooling, and they understand a lot of things I don't understand, but they don't get it.
mhm,
They don't they don't understand some of the basic like visual things that come easily for me, although I can't do a lot of the building plans that they can do, but I find people to do it for me, right? I think just sort of that innate ability can speak volumes, that sometimes you don't necessarily have to go get a degree, and study it for 12 years to understand it. I
yeah.
guess that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I guess, I mean, it also makes sense that I think people don't understand that this is a career they can have if so many
Yeah.
people don't understand that this is an design, a part of their remodeling process that they need.
Right,
Just a
right.
lack of appreciation, I think, in general for design in America, kind of,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, very much
which
so.
is sad.
The
But
Europeans get it. Yeah, right.
maybe, I mean, this is our little mission to like get people excited about design and hopefully
Absolutely.
we're finding some young people who are like, yeah, I want to do that when I grow up. And also,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, people in their 40s who are like, yeah, I want to do that when I grow up.
Right. I know it's never too late. Never too late.
Um, yeah, I have a degree. I knew I wanted to work in residential architecture.
Yeah.
I went to grad school in architecture. It was very
Mhm.
important to me. At that point, my interest was more in sustainability, and
Oh,
it
cool.
still is.
Yeah.
But it was very important to me to become a licensed architect, not because you actually needed to work in houses in most states. In
Yeah.
Wisconsin, I
Right.
don't use my license ever,
Right.
but I
Right.
maintain it because it was really important to me to give that validation to
Yeah.
sustainability work, the sort of slightly
Mhm.
off normal recommendations I was
Mhm.
making about materials, about layout, about choices.
Right. Right. Right.
And then I found mid-century because I bought a mid-century house. And I'm
See,
in the library
that
and I
happens to
said,
all of us. We're
what do
like,
I do for this cute little ranch? Like, how do I make good choices for this house? I
yeah,
looked at
interesting.
the
I think
major
that's the
design.
story for a lot of us that
Mhm.
are in it. It's like, oh, wait, I'm in this structure and I need to treat it well.
It's
And then,
special. I can
yeah,
tell.
yeah, yeah,
And I mean that in it's the most builder basic 1952
right.
ranch you could imagine. But I could tell that it was not like other styles of houses I had interacted with, and I didn't know what to do. So I went
Exactly.
researching,
Yeah.
and what I found was that there was not enough advice out there about what to do
Yep.
for a mid-century house.
Same. Same.
So I started
No,
making
and now I live in it's a neighborhood and there's like four different house plans and they're all ranches, right? And I
Mhm.
have this like grand vision that I can walk around to everybody and introduce them to, ways that they could make their house better and then get this whole neighborhood that's got all these great additions and color schemes and right? I would love to, but not
Oh,
everybody's on board.
the urge, right? The urge. I definitely watch sometimes with approval, sometimes with horror, what people in my neighborhood are doing when
I
they
know. You have to
remodel.
yeah, close your
I
eyes and
definitely
put
have
your
thought
blinders
about
on.
like sending people little postcards being like, your house is perfect except your front door. Just like, please let's
Right?
take out the oval Victorian
Right?
glass window and then
Yeah.
that's all you need. Whenever
Yeah,
you replace the front door, here's a sketch. Do that.
exactly. It's so easy. Like, and some people just don't know. I
Mhm,
would love to be like, here are four different color schemes.
mhm.
Do one of them because this whole neighborhood will look great if you
Yeah.
choose one of these.
This
No,
it's the
terrible.
trick, I think, too, for people who work in design is that by the time you see the dumpster out front,
Yeah.
it's kind of too late. But
Yeah,
then we just watch with bated breath to see what's going to happen on these houses.
I know. Hoping, yeah, fingers crossed, you know what you're doing.
But I think the best way to help people is to help people that want to be helped, and those are the people who find us on Instagram, who are listening to this podcast episode, the people who are putting in search terms of mid-century remodel or right mid-century kitchen choices or things like that, and finding us.
And
They
we're a small little group here. I mean, I
we
feel like
are.
I can name the people, right? That
Mhm.
we all know each other and we all just want to help you all out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's no reason to be grabby about it because there are so many mid-century
Oh,
houses that need
there's
help. Uh,
correct. Correct.
More than we could do in all of the
More
hours
work
of
than
our
we'll
days.
ever accomplish in our lifetime. Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so I think, and part of what we get to do is just make good advice and throw it into the ether like we're doing right now. And hopefully people are
Exactly.
getting inspired or enthused or looking for the assistance that they need.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, more great choices for every house in our personal neighborhoods,
Yeah.
personally for our own joy and delight, but like also good choices for every mid-century house all over the
Yeah.
place.
Across the country.
The
Yeah.
goal.
Let's save them all.
And that really is my mission. I know it's
Yeah.
not possible, but you gotta dream big.
One
So
house at a time, right? Yep. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, if you if you could pick a dream house to work on, what would it be? Would it be more of a time capsule or would it need more help? Would it be something that had been sort of mistreated in the past and needed putting back? Which is
I
your
think
most
it's the combination, honestly.
Mhm.
Like I love the time capsule elements, but I find walking into a house that's a complete time capsule is kind of like a letdown. Like it was already done so well,
You don't
right?
need to change it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no changes.
From a
Or
professional point of view, it's no fun.
it's no fun, right? Or maybe taking the time capsule and eh, maybe you completely renovate the kitchen to be modern, but make
Mhm.
it look like it was time capsule,
Yeah.
right? So like get it to be efficient and have all the appliances that are up to date, but
Yeah.
looks like it really wasn't pulled out and redone. I think the challenge is to make things look like the original. That's what I love to do.
Yeah. And that's the real trick. And I think it's a testament to a good plan, good design, and good execution by a contractor is
right.
If you wonder, is that always there? That's a win.
Yeah, completely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, start to finish.
Well, here's to more projects where we can make that happen. And we'll just keep working on it.
Yes, we will. Check them off. Save the world. Save the mid-century modern world.
One mid-century ranch at a time. I love it.
Right. Exactly.
So, who do you need on your team? The answer is different for every homeowner and every project, but the bottom line is that you do need people. Not just someone, but multiple people on your team who care about the mid-centuryness of your home as much as you do. People who can reinforce your preferences, give you added information to back up your choices, and who are familiar with navigating the complexities of making modern decisions for a vintage house update. Choices that are going to keep what's great about it intact, not wipe it clean of those charming features. The good news is that you're not alone. Elin's got your back, and Midmod Midwest has a range of ways you can get great advice about your home. Check out some of our free resources on front door updates, on smart kitchen choices, on how to set your style guide, or just check out my free masterclass, How to Plan a Mid-Century Remodel to Fit Your Life and Budget anytime you need it. Find those resources, plus the transcript of this episode and some links to some beautiful photos of Elin's recent projects at the show notes page, midmod-midwest.com/1813. Now, before I wrap up, next week on the podcast, I'm kicking off a new season. The first couple of episodes are already in the can, and I'll be focusing on the end goal of all our design thinking, getting into construction. So I'll start at the end, literally, with what you should be thinking and prioritizing at the conclusion or near it of your remodel project, those important last choices you can make, and how to set yourself to make them well. I'll also be looking back at everything I've done and not yet done on my own home and come clean on some of my greatest remodeling regrets. Yeah, I have them. And I have thoughts on how you can avoid the same regrets. Plus, by request, I'm putting together a quick start guide to making a mid-century house your home. What you can think about and make tracks on even before you have the keys, and how to make sure your first moves move you in the direction of a remodel you'll love. So see you next week for a new season. Can't wait.